What is it that gives a car brand its soul? Is it like the vision of the people who started it? Or is it the actual cars that end up defining it for generations? Well, for Chevrolet, the answer is this really cool mix of both. We're going to dive into the story of a brand that was literally born from a race car driver's heart and a businessman's brilliant ambition. And that's really the big question here, isn't it? This is the story of two guys who were completely different, but together, they created something that would become a massive part of American culture itself. And we're going to see exactly how that played out by looking at two legendary cars. One that just perfectly captured the incredible optimism of the 1950s, and another that was all about the raw, electric energy of the 1980s. But to really understand these cars, we have to go back, way back to the very beginning. So let's meet the two men who kicked this whole thing off, Louis Chevrolet and William C. Durant. I mean, talk about an odd couple. You really couldn't have picked two more different partners. On one side, you've got Louis Chevrolet. He's this Swiss-born race car driver, a total gearhead, just fueled by a pure passion for speed. And then on the other side, there's William Durant, the super savvy co-founder of General Motors, a guy who was always thinking about the bigger business picture. And it was this wild mix of raw performance and smart business that really became the foundation for the whole Chevrolet brand. And you have to understand, Louis Chevrolet's entire life was just this relentless pursuit of speed. I mean, look at this journey. Born in Switzerland, finds his love for mechanics in France, then he chases the dream of racing all the way across the Atlantic to North America. These weren't just random moves. This was a guy with a singular focus that led him right to Detroit, which was, the center of the automotive universe at the time. And on this date, it all became real. The Chevrolet Motor Company was officially born. See, Durant's big plan was to use Louis Chevrolet's fame as a racer to build a new brand that could go head-to-head with the Ford Model T. Okay, now let's hit fast forward a few decades. World War II is over, America is just buzzing with optimism, and everybody's falling in love with the open road. And Chevrolet somehow managed to capture that exact feeling in steel and chrome with one car, the Bel Air. Now, the absolute high point of this whole era is what car lovers call the Tri-Fives. These 3 years, 55, 56, and 57, they were a total game changer. They introduced this incredible style, the two-tone paint jobs, and maybe most important of all, Chevy's legendary small-block V8 engine. Just let that sink in for a second. The Bel Air wasn't just another car. It was a piece of the culture. It represented freedom, success, and that whole post-war American dream. This was the car you saw at the drive-in movies, the car that became the backdrop for an entire generation's photo albums. But the story of the Bel Air also shows us something else that's really key to Chevrolet's soul, its ability to adapt. Because, well, the dream couldn't stay the same forever. As the times changed, so did the Bel Air. The car that started out as the absolute top-of-the-line model, the one everyone wanted, eventually morphed into a more practical, kind of no-frills car. By the 70s, it was mainly being sold for things like police cars and taxicabs. It's a perfect example of how Chevy could pivot to meet whatever the world needed. Okay, let's jump forward in time again. The big chrome bumpers and tail fins of the 50s are long gone. Now we're in the 1980s, an era of sharp angles and synthesizers, and a whole new generation needed its own dream car. And boy, did Chevrolet deliver. They did it with the third-generation Camaro. Remember, after the gas crisis and all the regulations of the 70s, this car was a loud and clear statement that performance was officially back on the menu. And you don't have to take my word for it. The sales numbers from its very first year tell you everything you need to know. Right out of the gate, more than half of all the buyers went for the V8. The message was unmistakable. America was hungry for muscle cars again, and the Camaro was here to feed them. So what was the ultimate 80s Camaro? Oh, that had to be the IROC Z. It was named after this really popular racing series. And let me tell you, this was not just a sticker package. It meant you got an upgraded suspension, a way more aggressive look, and the heart of a beast, the tuned port injection V8 engine, which was basically lifted straight out of the Corvette. And the difference was, well, it was huge. The standard Camaro was a fun car, for sure, but stepping up to the IROC Z with that big 5.7-liter V8, you were getting almost double the horsepower. This wasn't just an option, it was a statement. This was the car that brought Chevy's performance roots roaring back for a whole new generation. But here's a really fascinating twist that kind of gets to the heart of our whole story. If you look at the raw numbers, the top-of-the-line 57 Bel Air actually had more horsepower than the mighty IROC Z did 30 years later. And that just goes to show you that performance means different things in different eras. In the 50s, it was all about raw, untamed power. By the 80s, it was about sophisticated, fuel-injected tech that had to deliver thrills while also living in a whole new world of rules and regulations. So, there you have it, the Bel Air and the Camaro. Two incredible cars from two completely different worlds, and yet both of them became the defining Chevrolet for their time. And that brings us right back to our original question. What's the common thread here? What connects that stylish 50s cruiser with an aggressive 80s muscle car? What is the soul of Chevrolet? Well, it really boils down to this core DNA. First, there's that performance heritage, right? It was born directly from Louis Chevrolet's passion for racing. Second, there's this huge cultural impact, this ability to create cars that become way more than just transportation. And finally, there's this constant evolution, this unique knack for listening to what the next generation is dreaming about and then actually going out and building it. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Which one of these cars truly defines the American dream? Is it the optimistic, chrome-covered Bel Air of the 50s? Or is it the defiant, muscular Camaro of the 80s? The answer probably depends on which version of the American dream you're talking about. And Chevrolet's genius really was building both.